On today's show, police officers square off with kids to do a little fishing. This is a story about friendships. One outdoor group stalks rocks and rivers in search of critters older than dinosaurs. And we take a walk in the park to visit one of America's most photographed lighthouses.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hey everybody, Laura and I welcome you to the show.
Up first, a fish tale that starts with the police, but ends with a boatload of happy kids.
Minnesotans making a difference. Brought to you by the Partners Group in Wayzata. Over 3 generations of unmatched service.
Lake Minnetonka's docks tend to keep pretty quiet on midweek mornings.
Here we are, here they come.
Until the limo shows up.
All right, are you guys ready? We're gonna have a great day on the lake. We're gonna head over here and get some life jackets.
Hopkins police wait on these kids fully armed for a fun day of fishing.
We're super excited to have all you guys out here today. Are you ready to have some fun?
Yeah!
We're out here on Lake Minnetonka for our annual Cops and Kids fishing adventure. All right, so if this group, Team A, wants to follow me, you guys will be on this boat.
The looks speak volumes.
It's fitting that he drives. He is the captain at the police department. Every year we like to take youth from our community and teach them the skills of fishing, teach them about respect and how to conserve our natural resources.
Chief Brent Johnson calls the program Cops and Kids.
What kind of bait do you want to use today? The first couple weeks in June, for the last 9 years, we've been out here.
18 Hopkins kids on the water. Today, the name should be Cops and Kids and Fish.
Fighting! Oh, there you go!
Taking the children who may not have the opportunity or may be a little disadvantaged at times and take them out with a bunch of our officers and staff and teach them this wonderful sport of fishing. Push the button and throw it out. And if we don't teach our youth at this age how to do it, they probably will never take it up. It's these positive mentorships, these positive experiences that really have a significant impact on the youth.
They're coming in quick now.
Wow, yeah.
Oh my goodness! Hold it up a little bit. Can you hold it up?
Plenty of willing panfish come to hand.
That's a good catch. Do you want to hold the fish?
No,
No?
not really. I'd like it to go back in the water.
All right, let's put it back in the water.
Look at that!
Is that your biggest fish ever? At the police department here, we're all about building relationships and building those relationships that they necessarily might not have with law enforcement. You did it! All right, we're progressing
Today, progress made on the fishing front.
from not touching the bait to taking our fish off. It's a great day out here.
Yeah, mine's inside.
There he goes.
A story about cops and kids together. And of course, a love of fishing. Coming up next, a hunting trip of a different sort. These explorers go in search of history.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers. By the Yard maintenance-free outdoor furniture. Running Aces Casino, Hotel and Racetrack. And by Aluma Craft Boats.
Coming up next, we found a group who loves hunting creatures older than dinosaurs as they stalk rocks and rivers in southern Minnesota.
There we go.
Bang, bang goes the hammer. You could say this hunting trip is different than most.
Over here, mackerate.
You can see him in the rock there.
In this case, the hunted died a long time ago.
We're just gonna hunt the shore for a few minutes.
Hunting for fossils, creatures entombed in stone.
Okay, here we picked up some crinoids.
As you hunt, you can't help but wonder, how did they live where you live now?
What do you have in your hand?
Cephalopod.
A cephalopod is a creature found under the ocean millions of years ago. The question is, what are they doing in southern Minnesota?
When Minnesota was on the equator, under a shallow sea of like 100 feet. Think about that. So you're literally picking up seashells by the seashore when you come out fossil hunting, which is really neat.
There's hundreds of feet of marine sediment, which is a wonderful setting to preserve fossils. There also haven't been a lot of changes to the rock through metamorphosis and other processes, so the rock is well preserved as well as all the media within it.
Still preserved after a few years.
450 million years old is about right.
Beverly Sandlin, known as the Fossil Lady, has her own reasons on her passion about finding ancient signs of life.
It's going into the outdoors. Just getting outdoors gives me a reason to get out, gives me a reason to learn. And they're critters. They're old, dead things. And it's just like a piece of artwork. That's how I look at some of these, is they're like nature's art.
Just like other art enthusiasts, fossil hunters collect their finds for show and tell.
This is my fossil barn, and I got some fossil friends today for you to meet.
You do, fossils and friends, nothing better. Hi, friends.
Fossils, fossils, and more fossils.
Very seldom do you name a fossil, but this is Waldo. He's an Antipharius boreas trilobite.
Oh my goodness, say that 3 times fast.
I thought pronouncing prehistoric names was going to be the biggest challenge of the day, until...
These are all coprolites. Coprolites are fossil poo.
Yay, we love it.
It is, because inside, it tells you about the environment that the animals lived in.
So how do you know what to look for when you're fossil hunting for poo?
One thing we do is we'll touch it to the tip of our tongue, and if it sticks, it could be a coprolite.
What? That's right, to test it, you have to taste it.
Would you like to demonstrate?
Tasting dinosaur poo?
You're not tasting it, you're just testing it to see if it's got good stickage.
All right, here we go. Oh, it does stick. You're right.
You don't have to taste a fossil, however, to be addicted to the hunt.
What was really neat for me, I think, people started asking me to take them out on tours, especially families with kids, and everybody can find a fossil.
Woo! Look at that!
There you go. That is a maclarase. That's the index fossil of the Ordovician. See, just like my necklace.
Oh, that's fantastic. We can have matching necklaces, Beverly.
Yes, yes.
Very cool.
That's a nice fossil.
It sure is.
And that's something, that'll make a memory.
Still ahead, we take a walk in the park along Lake Superior's picturesque North Shore. And later, the story of a love affair between a Minnesota couple and the smallest of birds.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Maple Grove Lock and Safe, your premier Liberty safe dealer.
It's time to take a walk in the park. We explore one of Minnesota's most popular destinations, especially for people into state history.
I think it's one of the best parks in Minnesota. It's one of my favorites to come to. My name is Abe Hartzell. I'm the seasonal naturalist at Split Rock Lighthouse State Park. We are about an hour's drive north of Duluth along the north shore of Lake Superior. You get a little less crowds when you come here. You get a little bit more immersed in nature. We are sitting right here on the shores of Split Rock Lighthouse State Park.
Well, the lighthouse is beautiful.
So the lighthouse itself, it's over 100 years old.
I know I went for years just going up to the where the lighthouse is.
Obviously the lighthouse is an important piece to it, but a lot of people don't realize that there's more. A lot of people actually put in kayaks in this area, so you can actually kayak right underneath the lighthouse. This little bay right here is actually known as Little Two Harbors. Over in this direction, we can see some of the remains of the old fishing village that used to be in this area. This is actually some of the old foundations that we see from some of the houses that used to be here.
It has a lot of incredible history. The park is incredibly pretty and amazingly well kept.
We have logging industry here too, so the logging companies were in this area actually harvesting the timbers in this area. These pilings that we see here are actually the remains from the logging companies that were here back in the early 1900s. If you kind of look for it, there's all these little pieces of history. They're kind of still reminders of what happened in this area. So if you hike up the river about 3 or 4 miles, you actually come across this giant rock, and it's just looks like it's got a just big split through it. That's where the name, the Split Rock River, actually comes from, is that big historic rock. There's Corundum Point, which is a little bit farther down the shoreline here, which actually is the site of an old historic mining operation that was here. And that's a pretty interesting story is they thought it was corundum and they misidentified the rock. And so what they actually did is they manufactured kind of faulty sandpaper for a few years until they figured out it was the wrong type of rock. This is the rock that they thought they came for, which they thought was corundum, which turns out it's actually a northrosite. And this rock is actually pretty interesting because we find it here at Split Rock Lighthouse State Park. Another really good spot where we find this is actually on the moon. So this is kind of a moon rock that we have here at Split Rock too. This is one of the hidden gems I think we have on the North Shore here. It's a great lookout. If you hike to the top of Day Hill, you can actually overlook kind of the Split Rock Valley and you get a really awesome sunset. A good way to end your day here would probably be do an evening hike when it gets a little bit cooler and the sun's just starting to set, and then maybe just kind of seeing, if you especially have clouds in the sky, just kind of watching that different color over the lake. It's just magical when you look at it.
Straight ahead, today's Minnesota Bound Classic documents this couple's passion for hummingbirds.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Connecticut, Mountain Dew, Radco Truck Accessories, Bent Creek Golf Course, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
Today's Minnesota Bound Classic is all about a love story about hummingbirds.
My dad, Ron Shera, introduces you to the Hummingbird couple.
Can I use binoculars?
Meet the Lovebirds, David and Vicki Weiniger.
There's Hummy, up in the tree.
From their perch on a porch, the Weinigers check out their feathered neighbors.
It really has grown.
While the backyard welcome mat is always out for any bird, the star of this story weighs less than a penny and flies at speeds up to 60 miles per hour, the ruby-throated hummingbird.
Well, he's hidden in there.
Watching hummingbirds is nothing new for this Minnesota couple. For more than a dozen years, this tiniest of birds, whose heart beats more than 1,000 times a minute, has been the subject of an amazing movie plot filmed in their own backyard.
Noticed a hummingbird in the front, one of the trees, which I went over because I looked and I thought, it seems like there's something there on that branch. And I went over and I got so excited because that was one of my dreams come
Actually,
true.
she shrieked.
I shrieked. Dave was
Shrieking Vicki had found a hummingbird nest, which is no easy task. The nest, camouflaged with lichens and spider webs, is almost invisible. Home to the hummingbird is no bigger than a 50-cent piece.
I call it our gift because it's something I had always longed to see.
To capture the rare discovery, David and Vicki purchased a video camera and pushed record. Rolling from one summer to the next, their camera collected more than 65 hours of video featuring the life and times of ruby-throated hummingbirds.
The thing with hummingbirds, everything interesting happens quickly.
So quickly.
And literally in a half a second, you either see something cool or you miss it.
As it turned out, the camera's eye didn't miss much. Starting on a pine branch, the nest building begins. Spider webs are tucked in place for support. Lichens are added for, well, only the hummingbirds know.
And then 2 little eggs in there look like little jelly beans.
The camera also captured the trials and tribulations of raising baby hummingbirds.
Watching them feed their young, I call it the sword swallowing act because it's amazing. This mother sticks that long pointed beak way down the throat of the baby.
It took me 4 microphones, and I don't know why, until I could get it. I had 3 that were recording, and they would not pick up the wing beats. And I had to have it just above the head, and the bird would be feeding when the microphone was right there.
Eventually, the hummingbird filmmakers decided to make their own hummingbird movie.
There's my 80 or so tapes that Vicki and I took when we were filming the bird.
Which required a video editing system complete with a computer.
It's my favorite part of the whole movie, up to the end.
Which started an editing project lasting 3.5 years.
I spent a week on this scene.
Finally, their hummingbird version of Gone with the Wind was complete.
The name originally was going to be More Than a Glimpse. And then one of our songs that we ended up using was Wind Dancer. And we figured, Wind Dancers, that's perfect.
And that's a wrap.
I love those little birds.
I do too. They're fun to watch, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Do you know Minnesota is home to 5 different species of hummingbirds?
I did not know that.
Pretty cool.
Well, that about does it for us. We'll see you back here next week.
In the meantime, don't forget to introduce a kid to the great outdoors.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. To get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.